Good morning, children. We are now in the third part of the chapter, that is the chapter of surface chemistry, and today's topic we are going to discuss is true solution. See, the topic today we are going to discuss is called as true solution. Now, while discussing the chapter 2, that was solution, I had told you the solution is a homogeneous mixture of two parts, that is the solute and the solvent. Okay, solution is always a homogeneous mixture of two parts, the solute as well as the solvent. So in case of a true solution, it is actually a homogeneous mixture. Homogeneous means it has the same composition throughout. It has uniform composition. That's why it is called as a homogeneous solution. Next thing is the diameter of the particles is less than 1 nanometer. Diameter of the particles is less than 1 nanometer. So the diameter of the particles is less than 1 nanometer, and that's why see this type of particles could not be seen by our normal eyes. That's why see this type of particles could not be seen by our normal eyes. Next is it passes through the filter paper. It passes through the filter paper because the size of the particles is much smaller than that of the filter paper. And next is its particles cannot be seen under a microscope. Its particles cannot be seen under a microscope. So all these properties together they add up the properties of that of a true solution. So what are the properties? The first property is that it is a homogeneous mixture. Diameter of the particle is less than 1 nanometer. It passes through the filter paper because these particles cannot be seen. It passes through the filter paper because these particles cannot be seen by your normal eyes. And next important property is that its particles cannot be seen under even a microscope. See, the example of a true solution is you people have seen that when salt is added to water, or if I add copper sulfate to a beaker of water, the color of the solution might change from colorless to blue, but the particles of copper sulfate cannot be seen. Or if I take a beaker of water, in that I add some salt or sugar, what happens? The salt or sugar cannot be seen. As the salt and sugar cannot be seen, that is actually called a type of true solution. That is called a type of true solution. Okay, so I'm just repeating once again the characteristics. It is a homogeneous mixture. The diameter of the particle is less than 1 nanometer. It passes through the filter paper and its particles cannot be seen under a microscope. Okay, its particles cannot be seen under that of a microscope. These are the characteristics of a true solution. So that was about the study of a true solution. After the next we are discussing is colloids. Just remember, colloids are those type of homogeneous mixture. See, although it appears homogeneous, but it is actually heterogeneous in nature. See, the first characteristic property, when you look at a colloidal solution, it appears to be homogeneous, but is actually heterogeneous in nature. The diameter of the particles is 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. Diameter of the particle ranges from 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. That is the range of the particles, so that is the size of the particles. Next, it passes through the ordinary filter paper but not through ultra filter. See, these type of particles, they actually pass through a ordinary filter paper, but they do not pass through a normal, or I can say ultra filters. Its particles can be seen by a powerful microscope due to the scattering of light. So this type of substances, they actually scatter light, and that's why this type of particles can be seen by the help of a microscope. Okay, so what are the characteristic features? If I repeat the characteristic features of colloids, we can see that colloids although it appears homogeneous, but they are actually heterogeneous in nature. That is, if you see in details the particles, you will see the size of particles varies from 10 to the power negative 4 to 10 to the power negative 7 centimeter, or its range is from 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. Its range is 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. That is diameter of the particles. It passes through the ordinary filter paper, but not through the ultra filters. It passes through the ordinary filter paper, but it does not passes through the ultra filters. Next important property is that these particles can not be seen by a normal microscope, but if you see through it a powerful microscope, you can see these particles. As you could see these particles, we can just say that they are the properties of a colloidal solution. Now example, you people might have noticed that milk is example of a type of colloid which is called as emulsion. So when you see a cup of milk or a glass of milk, maybe the particles you cannot see, but you can get a coloring matter of it. That is, if you see it under a microscope, you can even see the particles. But actually speaking, this type of substances, they are colloidal in nature. Being colloidal in nature, they cannot be seen by a normal microscope, but under a powerful microscope you can see. Another example is blood. Blood is also an example of a colloidal solution. Fog, these are all examples of colloidal solution. Okay, so here this point should be very much important, that although it appears to be homogeneous, but it is actually heterogeneous in nature. These are some of the characteristics features of colloids. Another is the size of the particles. See the range 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer, or it is 10 to the power negative 4 to 10 to the power negative 7 centimeter. And another important property is that as it looks homogeneous, by normal microscope you cannot see the particles, but if you choose a powerful microscope you can see these particles appearing. Now the third type we are discussing is the suspension. Now what is a suspension? Now suspension is obviously totally heterogeneous. When you look, it looks heterogeneous, it does not look homogeneous. So when I was discussing about the type of a true solution, I had told you it is homogeneous. When we were discussing colloid, it appears to be homogeneous but heterogeneous. But in case of suspension, it appears heterogeneous in nature. Now the diameter of the particles are larger than 1000 nanometer. So the size of the particles is larger than 1000 nanometer. It does not pass through an ordinary filter paper, and its particles can be easily seen even with the naked eye. So I am repeating the properties of a suspension. It is heterogeneous, that is, it is totally heterogeneous in nature. The diameter of the particles ranges from 1000 nanometer, larger than 1000 nanometer. It does not pass through the filter paper. It does not pass through the filter paper. Its particles can be seen even with our naked eyes. The particles can be even seen with that of a naked eyes. Okay, these are some of the characteristics. These are some of the characteristics of suspension. Example, see, in a suspension, the example is, if you put some sand in a beaker of water, what could I see? I could easily see the particles of this sand. These particles of sand which I could easily see is an example of a suspension. Is example of a suspension. So I can say these are the characteristics. These are the characteristics of our suspension. So there are three types of solution. That is the true solution, colloids, and suspension. After that, the next type we are having is when we study a normal solution. I have told you a solution consists of two parts, that is the solute and the solvent. The portion of the solution that is present in large amount, and that portion of the solution, if it exists in the same state as that of the resultant solution, that is called as solvent. And the part of the solution that is present in a smaller amount and its state is different from the resultant solution, that is called as the solute. So have you understood? A normal solution consists of two parts, the solute and the solvent. The solute is that portion which is present in smaller amount. solute is that portion which is also present in a different state than that of the resultant solution. That is called as the solute. Now solvent is that portion which is present in a larger amount. Solvent is that portion which is existing in a different state as that of the solution. So these are called as the solute and the solvent. Now in case of a colloidal solution, instead of the solute we call it as the dispersed phase. So it is the substance which is dispersed as well as fine particles. So the particles which can be seen by our microscope or by that of an ultra microscope or that of a powerful microscope, that is called dispersed phase. Or I can say dispersed phase is equal to the solute present in a normal solution. Dispersed phase is equal to the solute present in a normal solution. Then we have the dispersion medium. What is the dispersion medium? It is the substance that is present in a larger quantity. It is the substance that is present in a larger quantity. That is called the dispersion medium. Okay, so just remember the solvent that we see, that is called as the dispersion medium. Okay, is this part now clear? The solvent that we see, that is called the dispersion medium. So a colloidal solution consists of dispersed phase as well as the dispersion medium. Okay, colloidal solution is present as the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. Is this part now clear? After that, children, we will discuss the classification of colloids. See, classification of colloids, on the basis of this classification, they are of two types. That is, in this classification of colloids, you can see that is the colloids are divided into two parts, that is lyophobic salts and lyophilic colloids or lyophilic salts. One is lyophobic, other is lyophilic. Now this lyophilic and lyophobic depends on the basis or nature of the interaction between the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. That depends on the basis of the nature of the interaction between the dispersed phase and that of the dispersion medium. Okay, so just remember, that is, if I have a lyophilic salt, that means what? These colloids are liquid hating. In this colloid, the particles of dispersed phase have no affinity for the dispersion medium. In this, the dispersed phase has no affinity for the dispersion medium. Dispersed phase has no affinity for that of the dispersion medium. Okay, that is actually the case of a lyophobic colloid. You could see, well, this is example of a lyophobic colloid. Now also they are also not very stable. That is another important characteristics. Next is they can be prepared by mixing the substances directly. And they need a stabilizing agent for their preservation. And they are also called as irreversible salts. These are the characteristics of that of a lyophobic salt. So I am repeating the characteristics. That is, these colloids are liquid hating. In this colloid, the particles of dispersed phase has no affinity for the dispersion medium. They are not stable. They can be prepared by mixing the substances directly. They need stabilizing agent for their preservation, and they are irreversible salts. After that, we have the lyophilic salts. Next type of salts we have is the lyophilic salt. Now the question is, what is a lyophilic salt? See, the characteristics of a lyophilic salts are as follows. Okay, see, the first characteristics we have in this lyophilic salts. See, these are lyophilic salts. Lyophilic salts means these colloids are liquid loving. In these colloids, the particles of the dispersed phase has great affinity for that of the dispersion medium. Next, they are very stable. They are stable colloids. They cannot be separated by mixing the substances directly. See, they cannot be separated by mixing the substances directly. They are prepared by certain special methods. Next, they do not need stabilizing agents. So see, in case of lyophobic salts, we need certain stabilizing agents, okay, but in this case we don't need the stabilizing agents, okay. Another important property is that they are actually called as reversible salts. So lyophilic colloids are called as reversible salts. Lyophobic colloids are called as irreversible salts, okay. Lyophylic salts are called as reversible salts. Lyophobic salts are called as irreversible salts, okay. These are the two characteristics of salts. They are called as reversible salts. So is this part now clear? The two characteristic features of lyophilic salts and that of lyophobic salts. So their characteristics are entirely different from that of the normal types of salts. Their characteristics entirely different from that of the normal salts. Now we are going to discuss the next classification. That is the classification that is based on colloid on the basis of the type of particles or dispersed phase and dispersion medium. So this second classification is the classification based on the type of the particles present in a dispersed phase and that of a dispersion medium, okay. The next classification is based on the size of the particles depending on the dispersed phase and that of the dispersion medium, okay. See here, they are again of three types. The first one is called multimolecular colloids. See, the first one is called multimolecular colloids. What is a multimolecular colloid? The colloids in which the colloidal particles consist of aggregates of atoms or small molecules. The diameter of the colloidal particles forms is less than 1 nanometer. Diameter of the particles is less than 1 nanometer. That is called as multimolecular colloids. So what are multimolecular colloids? Multimolecular colloids means the colloids in which the colloidal particles consist of aggregates of atoms or small molecules. The diameter of these colloidal particles form is less than 1 nanometer. Next we have macromolecular colloids. Now what are called macromolecular colloids? These are the colloids in which the dispersed particles themselves large molecules. These are the colloids in which the dispersed particles themselves form large molecules. Usually they form polymer. What is a polymer? Polymer, you should know, has a huge length, huge number of molecules. They aggregate together and they form large molecules. Now since these molecules have dimensions comparable to those of the colloid particles, their dispersions are called as macromolecular colloid. For example, see the protein, starch, cellulose. These are examples of macromolecular colloid. See, the second classification I have told you depends on the type of particles. Under that we have the multimolecular colloids that we have already discussed. After that we have macromolecular colloids. Then we have associated colloids. What are associated colloids? These colloids which behave as normal strong electrolytes. See, this type of colloids, they behave as normal and strong electrolytes. These are the examples of associated colloid, but they show colloidal properties at a higher concentration due to the formation of aggregated particles of the colloidal dimension. Such substances are known as associated colloids. Such type of substances are known as associated colloids. After that, we have the next one, that is called the Kraft temperature. What is the Kraft temperature? See, the Kraft temperature, that is micelle. See, Kraft temperature is shortened as K, abbreviated T, abbreviation K. That is, the micelles are formed only above a certain temperature. So it is the minimum temperature above which the micelle formation takes place is called the Kraft temperature. After that, we have the next one is called the critical micelle concentration, or CMC. That is called the critical micelle concentration, or that is called CMC. Now, micelles are formed only above a particular concentration over that critical micelle concentration. That is called as the CMC. Okay, that is called as the CMC. Okay, that is called the critical micelle concentration, or CMC. Okay, children, that was all for the day. Thank you.